Thank you very much once again, Andreas, for joining us today on CX Insider Podcast. To get started, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me, and really happy to be part of the podcast, at least having one episode on this year. So yeah, I'm Andreas Schmelzer. I'm the head of digital transformations and services at Porsche Holding. What's my background? I just know process automation, and I'm doing this now for quite a while. Let's leave aside the years because then I'm feeling even older. But before doing all the process automation part, so really it's about, from my point of view, hyper automation and getting as much as possible of the work jobs into the machine and not in front of the machine. That's my background. Before that, I've been pretty much into management accounting and finance processes. And so at some point, I think I conquered SAP, and at some point it just got bored. And that's since then I'm really into process automation. And Porsche Holding, just to maybe to clear this, we are not producing the cars. So sorry, we are basically we are the retailing part, meaning we're responsible for getting the cars out into the world with our dealers, but also the financial services kind of environment.
Okay, great. So just as a first point for some of our viewers who may not be familiar with the term, could you start by defining what hyperautomation actually is?
At the very end, the combination depending on the use case of various technologies. From my point of view, the most important part about hyperautomation is really to combine the technologies depending on the use case, and not the other way around by having a technology and then trying to figure out what's a good use case for the technology. And obviously, if you're talking about process automation, because digital transformation and service means we want to put something in place and we want to change the workforce in terms of what do we have to do in front of the PCs. This means we have to really take into the consideration how to orchestrate everything and keep the things in place and that the people are really using that. So it's really human centric, even though we're talking so often about bots and technology and I don't know, but actually we're just talking about how to improve the workplaces.
So that's really interesting. What was it that initially drew you to this field? Because you've worked in quite a few different companies, all in the same kind of area. So what is it that most interests you about hyperautomation?
Hyperautomation, from my point of view, is really the possibility to ease the workforce in terms of putting the stupid things into the machine. And that's what driving me. I want to give the people quality time. My home turf is basically the hyperautomation part, by understanding the processes, the customer needs, the end results, and getting them done. And I'm really looking forward to that. People have as much time as possible to spend them either on high qualified tasks, for instance, or even better, family, friends, and maybe foes.
Yeah, I guess it's not all work, is it? It helps in all areas of life as well. So that's really great. Could you share any like bigger, more exciting projects maybe that you've worked on where you've seen this from birth and all the way through where it's really made an impact?
Yes, because I've built hyper automation teams now. I think this time it's now the third time I'm ramping up an automation team inside a company, and obviously in different stages, because a scale up or startup is simply different like I've been before, but nevertheless, I'm struggling a little bit in terms of having impact, because I don't know which kind of solutions didn't have an impact. So I'm coming from the other side a little bit. Biggest possibility or change we've done is that in every company I've been working, and I'm talking about process automation, we always challenge the process at the very beginning. So what is the job to be done? Is it really necessary in the future? Or is it just something we're doing today? And what is the end result? So if you're talking about user experience, customer experience, actually, first of all, to really fulfill these things, I have to understand what's the requirement. What do they need at what certain point in the process, in the delivery, in the product, in the service, you name it. Actually, that's the most crucial part. That's the most important part. And without even having done one single development hour, we already changed basically how we're working, because we're questioning our end results. So that's why I'm a little bit struggling in terms of where we made the biggest impact. I think the biggest impact is actually by those things we haven't done, because it was not necessary and we simply got rid of it. I think that's by far the biggest impact you can have. And then obviously the second one is, if you're really keen on, yes, we want to keep that, okay, then what is the leanest process in terms of with the least possible manpower in the operation as well as in the delivery, then going forward. One example would be a finance process where we at the very beginning got into, like, let's use the invoice process because that's really easy in terms of everyone can rely on. At some point, everyone got an invoice and had to pay.
Yeah.
So you're getting the invoice, and for instance with OCR you're extracting the stuff, but the OCR itself is just basically copying from some kind of input format into a digital format all the things, but that's it. That's OCR. There's no intelligence, anything. Then adding machine learning on top of it, intelligent document processing, if you're really talking about paper documents or paper document-ish things like PDF, and then extracting everything and putting it into an approval workflow. So there is already the integration of BPMS, like the workflow engine. There is machine learning at some certain point, AI, or I think nowadays GPT is substituting AI at any point. So let's say putting it to GPT. And at the very beginning, you have the OCR part, and you really have to make sure that everything is running, and at the very end is delivered into the ERP system. And I think this is one of the biggest impacts we already had. And I think in nearly every company, because that's a no-brainer at some point, at the very end, no one wants to put an accountant basically in typing stuff from left to right, like from a document into SAP or wherever. Actually, you just want to, if you receive the invoice, have the approver. Yes, that's what we've got. No, that's not what we've got. It's because we've got a different kind of service or a different kind of quality or a different amount, for instance. But at the end, you want the approved workflow, and that's it. You don't want accountant is touching the invoice. That's something what really had the biggest impact. This is also something where accountants can be really a pain if your solution is not working, because they don't want to get this process back. That's why we are always figuring out how to operate and deliver those services continually, because that's definitely biggest impact in terms of keeping them happy and not just making them happy at the very beginning.